观众朋友，大家好，欢迎来到 CGTN 的奥运直播系列。
Dear viewers,
我是记者
good
苏国
afternoon.
傲。
Welcome the
今
live
天呢
coverage
是东京奥
special
运会的
series
第12个比赛，
sponsored by
中
CGTN.
国军团里面
And
有
today is the
这样的
12th
承载了
day
太
for
多的
the
国人的
Tokyo
期望
Olympic Games.
以及国
And
人的
actually,
关注
there is a
那就是
Chinese
中国女
team
排。
that carries a lot of
非常遗憾，这一次中国
expectation
女
for
排没有
Chinese
取得
people. That is
大家
the
预想的成绩。
China's
那么
women's
背后的
volleyball
原因是
team.
哪些？然后
Unfortunately, this time the volleyball team were not able to deliver good performance, and what are the reasons behind it? And today we are honored to be joined by a famous volleyball commentator, a former volleyball player, Mr. Ding Wenbing, to join us to discuss the performance of women's volleyball team. So I believe you watch all the games, but I think you never expect that the team ended number 9 and be eliminated from the game. So actually 1 month ago, in the World Games, we think the Chinese women's volleyball team have very good performance, and especially in the last 2 games, they have very excellent performance. But this time, for the Olympic Games, during the group match, they actually lost 3 games and finally eliminated from the Olympic Games. Actually, this time, the Olympic Games is quite different from the National League, especially for the very first match. It's very difficult for all the teams and for all the players, especially in the first game. It will decide whether the team will have an excellent performance in the upcoming games. I used to talk to some media about the performance for different teams. For Team Turkey, it seems like a second-class team, but actually they're very good. And the Chinese women's team carry a lot of responsibility for the very first game. For the Chinese team, they used to be the defending gold medal favorites. So I believe all the teams, they're targeted Chinese women's team. So I believe for all the other teams, they will use all the efforts to win the Chinese team. So we have to get well prepared. So when we are trying to compete with Turkey, so we should pay attention to a lot of the statics from the Turkey, for example, the tossing and the setting. And I believe they have a very good spiking and also excellent passing during the game, so including the chief spiker and also the second spiker in Turkey. They have done very good in the very first game. So for the Chinese team, we have done a lot of preparation. We're very good in serving the ball. For example, we have Zhang Changning, Yuan Xingyue, Li Yingying, Liu Xiaotong, and some of them are able to serve the jump spike. And these people, they're quite good in their techniques. And for Turkey, they're actually focusing on the second spiking. If their offense is not working, and then we could have a fast attack. But unfortunately, on the very first game, we are not able to provide high quality serving of the ball. So for the very first game, it reminds us with the game in real Olympic Games. In the first game, we were defeated. And also this time for the 2 games, we actually stunned by 2 teams. And I believe the Chinese women's volleyball team, they're under a lot of pressure. So for the mental condition, they're maybe different as they prepare for the real Olympic Games. Yes, indeed. And actually, for the real Olympic Games, we also face very strong opponents. For example, the Netherlands, the United States, Turkey. And for this time, it's quite different because after 2019, the Chinese women's volleyball team, they're in a very good condition. And before we enter into the Tokyo Olympic Games, the full lineup never lost. So as we talk about the first game, maybe we're not in our good condition. And for the second game, we encounter with the second opponent, the United States. And actually this time, if we look at the opponents in the group, this is not favorable to Team China. Because all of these teams, they are very good in their performance. And especially after we lost 2 games, and in the third game, when we are competing with the Russian Olympic Committee. And even though we are leading ROC in the first 2 games, but unfortunately we lost the other 3 sets. As we said, this time is the competition in Olympic Games. So for these teams, they don't have a lot of time for rest. They only have 1 day for rest. For example, they have to prepare mentally and also they have to prepare for their physical condition. So for this kind of games, they don't have even 24 hours to take a rest. They don't have much time to adjust their condition. For the first day, we lost and we were stunned by Turkey, and on the other game, we lost to the United States. Even though we lost, but still we have some opportunities. And if we look at the game when we are competing with the Russian Olympic Committee on the very first set, we are not doing very well. But as we enter into the second set, we are trying to find out some opportunities when we enter into the fourth set. So for both 2 teams, they're crystal clear. This game is very critical to decide whether the team could proceed with the Olympic competition. So as we could see from the facial expression of the ROC, so they have actually done a lot of good job and the spiking. So even though in one set China was leading Russia 20-14, but Russia is able to deliver a lot of good servings and spiking. And according to the analysis, so 3 chief spikers, each one of them, they are gaining over 28 points. So also we have very young athletes from Team Russian, and also they are gaining over almost 30 points from the spiking. And also I done some calculation for all of their attacks. So for the spikers and the second spikers, they gained over 77 points. And actually for the Chinese team, we also very good at attacking. For example, we have Zhu Ting, Zhang Changning, and Li Yingying. But this time, a lot of people focusing on the situation of Zhu Ting, as she was suffering from the ligament injury from the wrist. For some of the positions, maybe she could not use all of her strengths. So can you tell us more about the importance of the wrist in the game? So for the wrist, it will actually limit the capability for Zhu Ting to serve the ball and also for the spike. And for the wrist, it is actually comprising with 8 bones. So I believe if you have an injury in the wrist, you are not able to move in certain directions. So if there is a ligament injury of the wrist, it will limit the movement of the hand. And I believe this injury is not just to the bones and also to the ligament. And Zhu Ting, as the key spiker, I believe she has done a lot of spiking. If she felt painful, so she's not able to use all of her strength during the spiking. So in the past, we were depending a lot on Zhu Ting's performance, but this time during the Olympic Games, she's not able to be at her best position, and also because of her wrist, she's not able to do the blocking. It's quite painful if we look at the games. For the injury of the wrist, it takes a really long time for her to recover. And for some of the athletes, they need to undergo surgeries. As the Olympic Games is approaching, so maybe some of these athletes will choose they don't want to go through the surgery or the operation. So they are using some traditional method to help to contain the deterioration of the injury. For example, maybe they will take some pills to mitigate the pain. So for the players affected by the injury, I believe all of these athletes don't want to have this injury, especially before the games. So for Zhu Ting, she never expected that she would suffer from a severe injury before the Olympic Games. Actually, for the coach, they also have some discussion of the doctors. But as the Olympic game is approaching and the time is limited, so she's not able to go through the surgery. I believe after the game, this time, Zhu Ting may go through the surgery. So, as if she's going to have the surgery, it takes a long time for her to recover. During the recovering period, she will not be able to play games. It takes more time for her to adjust her personal condition. It is quite complicated during the recovery period, especially she has to recover mentally, especially when they are trying to do some spike, do some blocking, maybe she will try to protect her wrist. And this time, her injury is happened by accident. So for herself, she needs to have very strong heart, and she needs to have this kind of willingness to cooperate with the doctor and also the treatment. If we look at the achievements from the Chinese women's volleyball team, for example, they gained gold medal from the World Championship and also the Olympic Games. And Zhu Ting is actually the key for the team. She's not just the key leader in the attack, but also a key leader in the blocking. And also, she's able to deliver a lot of excellent first pass. If one of the key players was down, it will actually have a lot of negative impact to the other players. So I believe, Mr. Ding, you used to be a volleyball player, you could have the same kind of feeling. So for all of these performance, it will have an impact to all the players. So it will affect them mentally, especially as we continue to compete with different teams and we keep having these losses. So for some of these players may be affected. But this time, we're able to see some of the young players. For example, Li Yingying, she's taken out the responsibility and also help the Chinese team to gain victory. And as a coach Lang Ping said, we need to do a good job in both the defense as well as the attack. So as a team, we need to consider the performance of each one of the players. If we have two good side players, and then it will release some of the pressure from the spiker. Even though Zhu Ting was affected by injury, and this time we have Li Yingying to take up the place of Zhu Ting. But also, we also need to balance the performance of Zhang Changlin. So if the other players are not doing a good job, even though we have very strong spiker, we are not able to score during the match. So this time there were many factors affecting the performance of the women's team. We found many players to suffer from injuries, and also during the group matches, and we saw some of our opponents they outperform during the match, and we are not able to deliver a very good performance. But fortunately, in the last two matches, we defeat Italy and Argentina. So actually, before the Tokyo Olympic Games, we think Italy is very strong. It's also one of the opponents for us to help us to gain the gold medal. Maybe this time we believe Italy is not able to have a good performance. But still, we think it's quite a pity for Chinese women's volleyball team to be eliminated. So because of the pandemic, the Tokyo Olympic Games have been postponed for 1 year. And for some of the strong teams, they are not able to compete with others. When we are competing with Italy, we don't have much pressure because we are already eliminated. So we are gaining some advantage mentally. In 2018, Italy used to beat China in one of the games of World Championship. So maybe we are taking the advantage mentally. And also one of the strengths for the team, for Chinese team, is that we are able to find out the weakness of our team. Even though we were defeated by Turkey, United States, and Russia, we are not. It's not saying that we have a lot of mistakes. It's just we are not getting a lot of scores from the spiking and the attack. So from the Olympic Games, we think still Chinese team has the prospect. And yesterday, after the whole game was ended, after China defeat Argentina with 3-0, and it's quite touching that we hear the song, "The Sunshine Comes After Storm," in the court, and we still remember for all the players, they're holding their hands and also take a bow to pay tribute to Coach Lang Ping. So how do you feel? So I believe for the DJ on site, it is actually from China. He is a volleyball lover, and each time when he saw the game with Team China, he actually played a lot of Chinese songs. So I think at the beginning, he is thinking maybe after Chinese team playing gold medal, and then he would like to play this song. But unfortunately, this time China was eliminated, and maybe he thinks this time he should play this song to encourage the whole team, and also Coach Lang Ping will retire after the team. So especially during the session from 2016 to 2021, I believe Coach Lang Ping bring a lot of improvement to the Chinese women's volleyball team. So this time, the whole team is using their actions to show their gratitude to Coach. So this is quite a touching moment, especially for Coach Lang Ping. She's already 61 years old, and she's still in the court and provide guidance and also to attend the training of the Chinese team. So I think yesterday still is quite touching. So if we go through the coaching career of Lang Ping, I would say in the past 8 years, she brought a lot of surprises and victories to the volleyball fans. So she took office in 2013, and also the team gained number 2 in a world championship. And once again, later, Team China able to claim the FIVB World Cup, and also in 2016 Olympic Games. After 12 years, once again, the Chinese women's volleyball team claimed gold medal in 2016 Olympic Games. And 2018, the World Championship defeated by Italy. And in 2019, once again, we become the champion of the World Cup. So what is your comment on Coach Lang Ping? Indeed, Lang Ping done a lot to provide guidance to the Chinese women's volleyball team. For each year, actually, she also goes through a lot of ups and downs. So in 2013, the Chinese team only gained number 4, and I believe it will pose a lot of pressure to Coach Lang Ping. And start from 2014, the team is preparing for the World Championship. And actually, Chinese team is not one of the gold medal favorites, and also we have some of the players under injury. And Yuan Xingyue became the key leader of the team. And we defeated Italy and entered into the final game in the World Championship. So I think this is also an unforgettable moment. And in 2015, we have the FIVB World Cup. It is also served as the qualification game for Olympic Games. So for the top 3 of the World Cup, they will enter into the Olympic Games. And when it comes to the 2015, only have 2 places for the Olympic Games. So still, the Chinese team is under a lot of pressure. And also, we have some key players suffering from injury. And before we depart to the Olympic Games, another key player was not able to attend the Games. So we could see Coach Lang Ping under a lot of pressure, but still we able to enter into the Olympic Games and finally become the champion of the Olympic Games. And the first match we are competing with Serbia, and the second game we are defeating Russian Olympic Games. And in 2016, we also have some losses during the group matches. We were defeated by United States and Serbia, and also when we are competing with Brazil. So actually, for some of the volleyball fans, they feel unsatisfied about the performance. And also, we are encountered with Brazil. Actually, they are the host country, host team of the Olympic Games. But in the final set, I still remember at that time 12-13, and also we have a mistake from the Brazil player. At the beginning, actually, this player posed a lot of challenges to the Chinese team, and this time it's a test of the mental condition. And after we saw there is a foul and a mistake from the Brazil player, and then we think we have a chance to win. So even though in the end we defeated Brazil, but during the process, actually, there were a lot of challenges for us, especially we lost a lot of matches during the group matches. There were a lot of pressure to our players and also our coach, because they have to consider what shall they do next. And from 2016 to today, I believe there were more challenges. And in 2016, I believe Coach Lang is able to find out some excellent young players. But during this period, the Olympic period, from 2016 to now, so we don't have much outstanding young players coming out. So we still have a lot of challenges. So when we're preparing for the real Olympic Games, so actually they're already preparing for the Tokyo Olympic Games, because at that time, Zhu Ting, Zhang Changning, Yuan Xingyue, and these people, they are quite young, especially when they are coming to the Tokyo Olympic Games, they're actually at their best position and their best age. And in real Olympic Games, we claim gold medal, and we are expecting these young players to have better performance in Tokyo Olympic Games. But this time, because of the pandemic, some of the preparation have to be postponed, and also we saw in other teams they also have some outstanding players. And some of the young players in other teams, they also at their best age in the Tokyo Olympic Games. For example, the team Brazil, even though they have some young athletes under injury, but also they have some experienced athletes and the players who are able to take up the responsibility and help the team to enter into the final game. To be honest, in Asia, Team China do not have any opponents. So for Japan, South Korea, they're not able to pose a challenge to us. And Coach Lang Ping always said, if it's a strong team, need to overcome all kinds of difficulties. Reviewing the past 8 years, I believe Lang Ping is able to bring a lot of treasure to the Chinese women's team. She is a great coach. Actually, she used to coach different teams in different countries and used to coach the national team of United States. And also, she is a very excellent volleyball player, one of the best spikers in China. So what are the treasures brought by Coach Lang Ping to the Chinese team? So maybe we should think about the experience of Lang Ping. So she is a legend, and actually she's the only person who could claim gold medal as a volleyball player as well as a coach. And also she used to coach for college teams in United States, and also she went to Turkey and Italy to become the coach. And in the end, she come back to China to coach, and in the end become the major coach for the Chinese team. So she has a rich experience, and she could pass down some of the philosophies to the players. So in the past, during the intensive training, we just focusing on certain individuals, some of the key players. However, for Lang Ping, she's quite different. During the intensified training, she actually pulled talents from different provincial teams and also to observe their performance during the training. So that happens to Zhu Ting. So I believe right at the beginning, when Coach Lang Ping found Zhu Ting, at that time she was not that strong, and Coach Lang Ping tried to protect her, for example, to control the number of spiking. So by doing that, we could protect the physical condition of certain players. And I believe Lang Ping is doing a good job to protect some of the young athletes. And this time, the wrist injury is an accident, and there's no injury for Zhu Ting. And also, Lang Ping advocates the idea of a national team, because we have to provide more opportunities to young people so that these people will cherish the opportunity to fight for China, and maybe at a certain time, these young athletes will deliver good performance. So we actually have like two teams. One is the major team, and also we have a backup team for the Chinese women's volleyball team. So I believe there is a lot of wisdom behind it. So also in the coaching team, we also have like special allocation of the duties. For example, we have coach responsible for the spiking, and also we have a coach focusing on the passing. And also we have the therapist to stay with the volleyball team to provide counseling to the players. So this also reflects the wisdom of Lang Ping, also reflects her enriched experiences. And she loved to share all of these experiences to our players. For example, we have a therapist staying inside of the team, and as she understands, there is an injury of wrist in Zhu Ting. So when our players going back to the national league, and this therapist will be with Zhu Ting to observe her physical condition. And also, Coach Lang Ping is able to find other therapists in different parts of China, and also she would like to recommend some best therapists to provide treatment assistance to the players. And also, Coach Lang Ping also is able to find out some of the weakness of the team. For example, she found for the whole team, maybe they have to improve their basic skills. That's why she spent a lot of time to train the basic skills of the players. For example, how to do a good first pass and how to train the second setter, etc. So she always emphasized the idea to balance the attack and the defense. So for the other teams, maybe they have like two spikers and also one libero to provide the first pass. But this time we have a complete different tactics. We need to have a spiker, and also we need to have second spiker to save the first pass. So as you could see, we are doing a lot of preparation for the Tokyo Olympic Games. And also we have this philosophy. So if you train yourself with like 10,000 hours, and then you're able to come up with a decent skill. So for some of our players, maybe they're not starting to practice volleyball from a very young age. So it takes some time for them to train and improve themselves. So what we are doing is trying to provide 10,000 hours of trainings to the players. So eventually, we are able to deliver a good performance. So at the beginning, when we found Zhu Ting, when she was a very young athlete, she has a very, for example, the long arms and also very good jumping skills. But always there are a lot of people trying to block her spiking. And this time we found Li Yingying. So she's very good at the spiking, but maybe she's not very good at the first pass. And so this time Lang Ping is also find out the different features of the different players and trying to improve the comprehensive skills for each one of the player. So Lang Ping used to be a key spiker. And back in 1980s, she is quite tall compared to other players. But also she's very good at the passing and the setting. So I believe she understands how the game works. Each player needs to have a comprehensive set of skills. And right now, for different players, actually, the position for each one of the players is getting very vague. For example, the chief spiker, for some time, she will become the first pass, or she will serve as the setter or libero when necessary. So once again, she emphasized the importance of the balance of the attack and the blocking. So for certain players, she should not only focusing on her key position. Also, when necessary, she have to provide support to other players. And I believe a few days ago, I also saw some notes from Lang Ping. Before each one of the match, actually she done a lot of work. She will take some notes and also she will look at the replay for each one of the games to understand the condition of our opponents. So this is also the spirit of the women volleyball. So no matter you are facing with a weak team or a strong team, but still you have to get fully prepared. So the reason why we are leading the other teams, meaning that we need to get well prepared. So I believe Lang Ping is about to leave the Chinese women volleyball team, and she will retire soon. And in the past 8 years, she dedicated herself into the development of the volleyball team. So soon we will enter into a post-Lang Ping era. So what will the trajectory of the development of the Chinese women's volleyball team? So who will take Lang Ping's position as the coach? So it's quite common to see victory and defeats. And if we look at the development of the volleyball team in different countries, you see for certain athletes, even though they're above 30 years old or even like 35 years old, they still could demonstrate a very good performance. For example, this time we have Yan Ni, and also for other players this time, if we compare to the players in other countries, for our existing players, they're still quite strong. They're still at their best age. I believe these players are able to play and perform in the next section of the Olympic Games. And during this process, at the same time, we shall find out more outstanding young talents. For Coach Lang Ping in the past few years, actually, she was under a lot of pressure because her daughter was in the United States and she is not able to have a reunion of her family. But I think Lang Ping will not leave the volleyball because she's still the member of the International Volleyball Federation and also takes up a key position in the Chinese Volleyball Association. And also a chairman for the volleyball committee in the Normal University in Beijing. So she's not leaving, and I believe she will still advocate some philosophy of volleyball. And also, I think when necessary, Lang Ping could still be served as a counselor as the Chinese women's volleyball team. So this is one of our treasure, one of our assets. So we still need to have some discussion about that. Thinking back in 2013, actually it is the second time for Lang Ping to be the coach of the Chinese women's team. And still in 1996, she actually returned to China and also coached Chinese women's team. And in 2013, actually, it is her second time to come back to the Chinese team. Because at that time, the women's team still in sadly downturn because Team China was defeated by Japan, and once again, Lang Ping came back to China. And by coming back to China, she's able to provide more experiences to the team members and the coach team. And also this time we could see for the coaches and assistant coaches of the Chinese team, they're still quite young at this stage. I hope in the future they should learn from the past 8 years and are able to bring the Chinese women's team to a new height. So actually right now on a routine basis, we do have this coach training. So as a dean for the Volleyball Association, I believe Lang Ping is able to organize a number of trainings so that she could share some of the experiences to those young coaches. So this time we could see the strategy for the Chinese team is quite different as compared to the real Olympic Games. Because the speed of the spiking is faster, and we should continue to follow this philosophy. And this time, maybe we are affected by a number of factors. We are not able to have good, excellent performance. We lost 3 games. If we look at the first attack, we are not as good as our opponent. But if we look at the game when we are competing with Italy, actually we still have a lot of improvements. I hope in the future, Coach Lang Ping are able to provide more experiences to the young athletes and the coach so that they understand how to play volleyball. Because volleyball is not just about spiking, the blocking, and the defense. So we need to balance the features of different positions. I believe for Coach Lang Ping, she understands all the changes happening in different countries. For example, the tactics to serve the ball for different countries, they are also changing some of their tactics to serve the ball. So when we are competing with some of the European countries, actually they're quite strong. And also we are seeing that all the other teams are getting stronger. So when we are focusing on provide trainings to the basic skills of the athletes, we still need to make some adjustments of the basic training of the young athletes. That's correct. So we keep telling the kids what is volleyball. But for the kids, maybe they're thinking the key to win a game is depending on the spiking. They're saying if we have very strong spiker, they will win the game. But that is not how it is. Spiking is not the thing about the volleyball game. So for some of the teenagers, maybe their strength will be different, especially when they're at a younger age. But as they grow, after 18 years old, maybe their strength is quite average. And then we need to talk about the tactics. So it is not just about the strengths. We are actually competing with our wisdom, our tactics, etc. So all the young players should learn from the volleyball games. So, for example, they should learn from the philosophy from the Chinese women's team. And this is also very important. I believe our audience pay a lot of attention to their backup team. So in the real Olympic Games, we have a lot of talents. For example, we have Zhu Ting, a very outstanding young player, and also Yuan Xingyue, Zhang Changning. So when we are coming into the Tokyo Olympic Games, we are not seeing a lot of new faces. So how do you feel about the talent pool of the Chinese women's team? Actually, for the women's team, we still have a large pool of talents. For example, this year we have the national games, we have the adult team and also the U19 teams. I believe there will be many talents showing up from the national games. So for the national games, we'll start in September. So after the national games, for some of the senior players, they may retire. And for the young players, they will enter into the provincial league. Especially, I believe, for the volleyball league coming up after September, after the national games, we may have more young talents coming out. So we would say we are quite positive about the pool of talent. In China, we have a great number of women athletes to play volleyball, but still we need to set a target for these players. So, for example, some people may want to serve the provincial team, and some of them maybe their dream is to serve the Chinese team. So we have to consider what is the target for some of these players. So for some of the student players, student athletes, they're quite experienced because they play a lot of games, even though when they compare with some of the professional players. So if we have some students entering into the professional games, maybe we are able to find out more talent. I still remember when we are having the parade of the 70 years anniversary for the victory resisting the Japanese aggression. We still remember some of the Chinese women's team. They are actually able to enter into the parade, and also they are commanded by the General Secretary. So we all talk about the spirit of the women's volleyball, and actually it is not just about victory. Even though we were defeated, still we have this kind of spirit. For the spirit, it actually encouraged generations. For the first time, when Team China won the champion back in 1981, we start to carry forward this spirit. At that time, China just underwent a reform and opening up periods, and we are lagging behind with other countries. But at this time, even though we were defeated, we still have to carry forward the spirit of the women volleyball. That is always to have this can-do spirit, and we shall never give up. So for the spirit of the women's volleyball, it also represents the spirit of the competitive sports. So for some of us, for example, we only watch a few games. For example, at a very difficult condition, we are able to beat up some of the traditional strong teams. So we do have different lineups for different generations of the women's team. But the spirit shall be inherited and shall be carried forward. So even though we lost this time, so it doesn't mean that we already don't have this kind of spirit. This spirit should be reflected in our daily life and our work. For example, we may have some difficulties and challenges in our work, but we always need to have this can-do spirit and conquer different difficulties. By now, you could see the society is developing very fast, and also all of us is under a lot of pressure. Actually, for each item of the competitive sports, they also have different spirits. For Team China, especially for the volleyball team, even though we lost the game in Olympic Games, but still we are quite strong in the world. So we still need to work hard and to invest a lot in our training. For some of the young people, if they're not athletes, they're just like ordinary people, maybe they could do a lot of different things, but for our players, they have to be stayed in a lockdown area and they have to do a lot of training to keep up with their capability. So you could never imagine these girls, they have to do the training for at least half a year. Actually, they have conquered a lot of difficulties. This is the spirit of women's volleyball. So for this kind of spirit, it actually encourages generations. So if we look at volleyball, basketball, and football, soccer, so for these three games, and actually it carries a lot of expectation from Chinese people. And at the same time, we are thinking the women's volleyball, they're actually the gold medal favorites. And we hope in the future the men's team is able to have a better performance. So we understand women's team is quite outstanding. How can we improve the men's team in the future? We do have this expectation for the men's volleyball team as well. In the past, the men's volleyball team also considered as one of the best in the world. But with the change of the tactics and the strategies, we have to admit that for the men's team, we are still lagging behind with other teams, with other national teams. So first of all, we need to encourage young people to participate in these sports. It is very difficult to find a young talent for men. Maybe some people, they're quite advantageous in their physical condition, but we don't know whether this person can continue to play basketball, to play volleyball, and just like what happened this time. This time, Zhu Ting was suffering from injury. And in the future, if we have more athletes like Zhu Ting, maybe we will be in a very more proactive situation. And yesterday, also Lang Ping told us we need to find out more talents. There are many people in China who want to play basketball, they want to play soccer. Maybe not many people, they want to choose to play volleyball. So we still need to have a better vision for the future. For example, if we have more young talents to help us to push forward of this game. For example, if we have the volleyball game available in the schools, have more young girls to participate in the competition. So first, we need to promote the volleyball game. So I think for volleyball game is quite suitable for schools. It is quite safe because there's no direct physical confrontation. And also we need to educate the public about the function, about the sports. For example, the ultimate goal is not to win. The most important thing is to participate. So we want to have more young people to get engaged of the game. If they are interested of the sports, and then these people would like to devote themselves into volleyball. For example, in Japan and South Korea, they're actually quite good in their national league. And actually this time for Japan, the men's team, they're able to enter into the Olympic Games. And they have some very young athletes. even
这个是我们
student
需要去效仿，
players.
包括美国的这种学校。
This is
虽然
because
排球在美国它
they're
是一个
very
冷门
good
项目，但
in
是在
their
美国
campus
从
sports.
事排球训练的，无论是男生女生，非常非常多。
In United States, there are also many people, many young people participating in the volleyball game. So each time for the coach, when they're trying to select the athletes, they have a lot of choices. So they can actually pick the best players among a large pool of talents. However, if you look at the women's team, it is very difficult for us to select 12 best players.
因为真正比赛它不是只有这6个人、7 个
Maybe
人
it is
比赛，
easier for
实
us
际上是
to
12个人、14 个
select
人。
the key
一旦
players, but
某一
we
个队
are
员
not able
出现了
to
问题，
find
你其
a
他队
good
员能
team
不能
of
替
the
换上去，这
substitutes.
是一个很重要的问题。如果
So,
说
for example,
主力
for
和替补
certain
差距很
athletes,
大，像这次
if
美
they're
国男排
down,
就
we
很
need
明
to
显，他
find
的
out
主
a
力和
good
替补差距
substitute.
很大。那最后
So
就
we have
一旦
to
主力不发
consider
挥，
the strengths,
可
the
能你就不
capability
能进入到下一个轮次。
of
所
all
以
the
他们也是
players. For
本身也是
example,
夺
this
冠
is
热
the
门，也被淘
situation
汰
for the United
出局
States.
嘛，也是这个问
If
题。
they do not have good substitutions and if some of the key players are down, so they're not able to sustain their performance. Actually, today we talk about the performance of the Chinese women's volleyball team and also talking about the factors affecting the performance, and also we talk about the past 8 years devoted by Coach Lang Ping. And also we talk about the inheritance of the spirit of women's volleyball. So we should not just focusing on the performance of the national team, but also we need to focusing on the sports, on the grassroots. If we have more talents and also more backup players, so it will help to improve the overall performance of women's volleyball as well as the men's volleyball. So thank you